Hi everyone, this is Mom Minute and I am Mindy from Cute Girls Hairstyles. I really loved this week's question because it's definitely one that applies to parents everywhere, but it's really something that's tough to work out. Sofu Snow wrote, what do you do when you and your partner fight over different parenting styles? So this question is definitely a tough one. I've been married for 15 years and I still don't have all the answers for this one. In fact, when I was going over this question, I asked my husband for some advice on things that I should say to you guys, and in the process, we actually started having an argument over what our suggestions would be. We've recently had something come up amongst ourselves about parenting style where we kind of have polar opposite opinions. And so we're actually going through this right now, trying to figure out how to get to that middle ground where we're both happy without feeling like one of us gave in and the other one got exactly what they wanted. So my first suggestion would be that you guys talk about things before they happen. So definitely when you're first starting to date somebody or get to know somebody, make sure that you're running kind of like scenarios. I mean, it sounds really cheesy, but when we were first dating, we would say to each other like, how do you feel about adoption? You know, is that something you want to do or not want to do? How do you feel about when our kids should date? Anything like that, anything that may come up, because then you know you have those commonalities and it will prevent problems in the future. The bottom line is no matter how well planned out you are trying to be, you're eventually going to run into a scenario where you do have differences of opinion. So my suggestions in that case would be to sit down and talk it out. Now, it's really hard to do, but try to pick a moment when you're both calm and you're not already frustrated and heated up, and just sit down and voice your concerns and your opinions and why you feel the way you do. And then more importantly, listen. Listen to what their concerns are and how they're feeling about it, and see if you can't find some middle ground. Sometimes you're just gonna have to agree to disagree. And that's the case right now for us, is we can't really find a middle ground yet. And so right now we're just sort of like, well, let's agree to disagree right now and we'll reevaluate it in a week or two when we've both had time to kind of think about it and reflect and you know, ponder on how we feel about it again. I also think that you should never, ever, ever let your kids play off of each parent. You should never let your kids go, oh, well, mom's saying this, when you know that dad feels the other way, because that is a recipe for a disaster. Make sure that you always back your partner up. My last piece of advice on this very tough question would be to try to remember that it's more important to do right than it is to be right. So try to remember that you're both working towards the common goal of making your family or your kids better. And if you're working against each other all the time, it's just creating more tension in the home. And I personally would rather not be right or maybe have to give in a little more than I really want to and I'm comfortable with if it means that my family and my home is peaceful. So it's more important to do right than to be right. I would love to hear how you deal with differences in parenting styles. As always, you can leave a comment below. Make sure to tweet us at @TheMomsView, #MomMinute, and you might see your question answered in a future episode. We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye. My kids are finally getting acclimated to their new schools. Now, I hope that when my kids are at school, they're enjoying their education, doing what they're supposed to be doing, and studying hard. But I know my kids well enough to know that's not always going to be the case. So here are 2 questions about helping your child be a good student.